Hello there and welcome to the Card Grotto. Today I'm back with another of my Back to Basics episodes, and today I'm talking about cardstock. I've had a request to kind of go through the different cardstocks that I have and maybe what I would use them for and things like that. So I'm going to go through that with you today. Obviously there are tons and tons of cardstocks around. I obviously don't have them all. I'm really trying not to have them all as well. So I'm going to go through the ones that I do have and what I like about them and kind of their thicknesses and things like that. So first of all I'm going to talk about Bazzill Basics. This is probably the first one of the first cardstocks that I ever bought when I started card making. So the original Bazzill Basics cardstock has kind of like I'm not quite sure what to, like a canvasy texture I suppose. It's a really nice texture. Obviously it does kind of involve a problem if you're stamping onto it. Sometimes you can leave out little bits, but you can still stamp on it and it's absolutely fine for that. It's around £80 or 200 GSM. They call this a heavyweight cardstock. Now for me I don't think this is heavyweight. For me this is it's not really thin, but I wouldn't use it as a card base. For me it's a bit too thin to be used as a card base, although you could use it like if you use this and then had another layer on the top, and then maybe in the inside of the card you might want to put another layer of this, so you're kind of doubling up. That's how I would probably get away with it. Otherwise I would use a thicker cardstock and then I would use this on the top. Otherwise this is really good for layers, this is good for die cutting, and also with the texture as well. It's quite nice with die cuts and things, just because it gives it a little bit of extra something to the card. And I do like this cardstock. I don't use it probably as much as I used to because I'm kind of using other brands of cardstock, but I still have quite a lot of it and I do like it, and it comes in an absolutely wide range of colours. Tons and tons of colours. They do have lots of different textures as well. This is kind of the original texture, and they have like, I don't know what, they're all called different things, like washboard. They have smoothies, which is nice. They have this kind of texture here as well. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. It's like a mottled kind of texture. Again, that's quite pretty. As I say, they have smoothies, they have all different types of card Bazzill Basics make. They're all very good quality, loads of lovely colours, but I would use it mainly for die cutting or as layers and things like that, more so than card bases. So then next up, along the same kind of lines, is Doodlebug. Bazzill Basics actually manufacture Doodlebug cardstock. The original one is a crisscross pattern. Again, really pretty, and again the same thickness as the original Bazzill cardstock. Again, I wouldn't use it for card bases unless I was making like, maybe if I was making like a 3x3 card, 3 inches by 3 inches, you could probably get away with that because it's quite a small card. It wouldn't involve too much weight going through it, but otherwise again I'd use it for die cuts mainly, and sort of layers on cards, more so like I would maybe use it like a pattern paper as such. And then the new texture is this. Again, it's a nice texture, I do like it, but for some reason it seems to have a little bit of a shiny coating on it, which I don't like as much as the original one. I prefer the original sort of crisscross version, but they come in absolutely beautiful colours. If you followed me for a while you know how much I love Doodlebug. I just love their bright, vibrant colours. So they still come in those colours. I just prefer the texture of the original version. And these, if you didn't know, these are all the colours that Doodlebug come in. They're just I just love Doodlebug colours. Anyway, I could talk about that for ages. And then next up is Stampin Up. Again, it's the same kind of thickness, 200 GSM or 80 £80. Sorry, that is not the thickness, that is the weight of the cardstock. The thickness actually kind of isn't into this equation here. This is the weight. I personally always go by that if it weighs more it's probably likely to be thicker. It doesn't always work that way, but it does in most cases. So this is the £80 stuff. I don't have the newer stuff. This is the old stuff, which is textured. They don't sell this anymore, and as I said, I don't have any of the smooth stuff anymore. I think I did have one pack, but I don't think I have any more now. I only have the textured stuff, which I really like the textures, and it's a shame that Stampin' Up no longer do it. But again, I really like Stampin' Up colours. You know, everything matches, so the ink matches the colour of the cardstock and the embellishments and everything, which is really good. Again, I wouldn't use this as a card base. I do know people that do use it as a card base. I just find it a bit too thin for me personally. But obviously everyone's different. And then next up is Papermania cardstock. I don't think that many people use this nowadays, but it's a really good cardstock in terms of you know, value for money. You can get a big pack of this for quite cheap. Again, it's £80, 216 GSM. Again though, it is too thin for my personal liking, but it's really great for punches. It's really great for die cutting. I don't really have that much of it. I've given most of this to my niece now, but it's again, it's textured. It's a nice cardstock. And I've kind of left my two favourite till last. So first of all is the Papertrey Ink Perfect Match cardstock, which is £110 or around 300 GSM. I really like this cardstock. It's thick. It holds up really well with Copic colouring, with stamping. I've done a whole version on like my white cardstock, which this is still my favourite white cardstock. But the colours, again, are really lovely colours, come in a variety of colours. The only downfall obviously is that here in the UK it's a lot more difficult to get hold of, but it is a really good cardstock. It's thick, it's lovely and smooth. If you know they don't have textured, but it is lovely and smooth, and you can always add texture on top with embossing folders and things like that. I would definitely use this as a card base. In actual fact, almost all of my card bases are made from Papertrey Ink cardstock. But there is another one that I use, which is the Bazzill Card Shop cardstock. This they say is £100, which is around 270 GSM. Although it weighs more, to me, it weighs less, sorry, it's a lot thicker, I personally think, than the Papertrey Ink stuff. It's just, well, when I say a lot, it is thicker, but it's I would use them both interchangeably. This is a little bit more difficult to kind of score with a scoreboard, so if I do that I would add this on top and I would score it one side, and then I would score it the other side as well, and then I would kind of go back and score it and then fold it, because you do need to score it quite a bit because it's so thick. But it's really great for card bases. Again, it comes in lots of lovely colours. I think they've actually added some more colours to the range since I've bought some. Really lovely colours, and I would definitely recommend this. This is also good for die cutting because it's quite thick. You'd probably want to use a shim with it maybe if you're using kind of like an intricate die, but otherwise general kind of other dies are absolutely fine with it. It is good. It's good for stamping on. It's okay with Copic colouring. It's not great. In my personal opinion, but it's not too bad, but it's an all-round really good cardstock. So that is kind of like the main cardstocks, and I just wanted to go over quickly a few others. So I thought first of all I'd talk about watercolour paper or watercolour cardstock. This is the Tim Holtz Distress watercolour cardstock, which is £118 or 319 GSM. Really thick. One side is quite textured and the other side is a bit less textured. It is still textured. It's a really great watercolour cardstock. I really like it because it's white. A lot of watercolour paper is kind of cream or beige in colour. This one is really quite white, which I like. And yeah, it's just really nice to watercolour on really, but obviously you could use it for other things as well. If you're using a lot of water with distress inks, so like blending techniques, it's good to use this kind of card because it holds up obviously well to the water and it doesn't warp so much. Yeah, I really like that. And then I've got some kind of speciality cards, I suppose. So I've got some here. First of all, I've got shimmer cardstock. Papertrey Ink do what they call a shimmer cardstock. I don't know if it will catch on the camera here, but this one is the white. Really pretty. It's the same thickness as their normal cardstock, which is nice, so you could use it for card bases. yeah, it's just a really nice. They have lots of different colours. I only have the white in it, but it's really nice. And then Bazzill do a Bazzill Bling, which is the same texture as their kind of normal cardstock, but it's got a lovely shine to it. I mean, this is really shiny, but again, it comes in really lovely colours. I don't use it that much now, but if I want a shimmery cardstock, this is probably the one I will go to. It's really nice for die cuts especially. And then I've got some glittery cardstock here. This is the one from Doodlebug. It's called Sugar Coated Cardstock. This is the white version. Again, you know, they come in all the same colours as Doodlebug, but it's really nice. It's a you know, it's a rough textured cardstock, as in the glitter particles are on the top of it. However, if you rub it, I mean, some does come off on your fingers, but not, you know, not tons. It doesn't go all over the, you know, your desk or whatever. Really nice. You can use this for die cutting as well. It's quite thick. It's the same, probably the same thickness in weight, I suppose, in weight as the Doodlebug cardstock, but because it's got that extra glitter on the top, it feels a bit heavier. And then there is glimmer paper from Stampin Up, and they call it glimmer paper. It is probably the same, again, the same weight as their normal cardstock, but again, really pretty. This is the silver, I think, and they do gold as well. I'm not sure if they do any other colours, but again, the same kind of thing. The glitter particles are on the top, but if you rub it, tons of them don't come off. You do get a bit of shine on your fingers, but really lovely. And again, you could use this for die cuts. And then I thought I'd just talk about vellum quickly. So I have three kind of vellum that I use up until probably like last month. I've been using the Papertrey Ink vellum, which is, they call it vellum cardstock. It's very thick. It's probably around £40 or 108 GSM. It's really nice for, I mainly die cut butterflies from it actually. It's really nice. You could stamp on this, you can, let's say, dye from it, you can emboss on it if you wanted to. You need a thicker kind of vellum if you're going to stamp and emboss, so heat emboss onto it, otherwise it warps quite a lot. But you can do it with this one, it is thick enough, but you can still, as you can see, you can see through it quite well. And then they also have a vellum, a linen vellum as well, which is got a nice linen texture to it. It's quite white in colour. It's not so see-through, but it is still see-through, and I like that as well. And then recently I've got some of the Bazzill vellum, which is £40 or 108 GSM. It does come in £21 as well, but this is the thicker version, and again, you could use this for heat embossing or any kind of thing. I generally would always go for a thicker vellum, but sometimes it is quite nice to have a thinner one if you really want that kind of see-through, very fine kind of vellum. So that is a little bit on cardstock. One thing I haven't mentioned actually is patterned paper. Just in terms of thickness, I would never use patterned paper as a card base. I would always use it as a layer on top of card base, and also if I happen to be cutting, so like a die cut or something, I haven't really got a version here, this is just the card that's on the top, say like this this flag that I've cut with the patterned paper, if I was to wanted to layer it up, so like put foam pads underneath it, although most papers these days like Echo Park, My Mind's Eye, Doodlebug and everything, they are quite thick, I would probably cut it once from white cardstock and then stick the paper piece on top of it, so it's like two thicknesses, one of cardstock and one of paper, and then I would 3D foam it underneath, because otherwise I just don't think that it's supported enough with just the paper itself. So that's how I would kind of get around that thing. Otherwise I love just adding paper just on the top. you know, of a card base. I don't use pattern paper that much, but obviously I have done a video separately on that, which I will link down below if you want to have a look. And I will also link down below my white cardstock videos. I have 2 of them, and that just goes on about white cardstock and my needs for white cardstock. This is just kind of the coloured cardstock that I use. So I hope that's helped some of you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.